Principles of Project Learning, Episode 6. Teach learners to develop their project ideas through a process of critical thinking. This video is part of a series on the principles of project learning. This episode is about how learners can develop their project ideas through a process of critical thinking. During the development phase of a project, learners develop their own ideas through a process of exploration, experimentation, and testing. Critical thinking is one of the central skills that is used in this process. In this video, we will explore 5 steps in the process of facilitating the development of critical thinking skills that learners will be able to put to use in developing richer, deeper projects. A model for developing critical thinking skills through project work. Thinking begins with an open question or challenge. In this series, we have noted the importance of choosing an open question or challenge as the starting point for a project. When learning is mainly focused on preparation for examinations, there is a temptation to adopt an approach according to which learning is simply a matter of knowing the right answer, often understood as the answer which will get marks in a test. By contrast, when learners are engaged in project work, they are exploring questions or challenges where there is no obvious right answer. Hence, they need to begin thinking things through for themselves. If more than one answer is possible, learning becomes a matter of exploring ideas and critically evaluating alternative possibilities. For learners whose main experience of schooling has been dominated by the right answer model, this approach may be challenging and perhaps even uncomfortable. It is worth spending time explaining to learners why it is valuable for them to learn to manage open questions and challenges. The skill of learning to think creatively and independently in a context where there is no obvious right answer is essential to deeper learning. It is a valuable life skill and a vital skill for future employability in a complex world where learners will be expected to think flexibly and creatively about problems which have no simple right answer. Whilst recognising the importance of helping learners to develop their ability to think in this open, creative, flexible way, we need as well to recognise that this type of thinking is challenging. To help learners progress, they need a supportive environment, whether in a real or virtual classroom, where the focus is on giving them confidence to think for themselves and courage to persist even when there are no obvious right answers. Thinking is developed through dialogue and discussion. We learn to think by practicing thinking. The most natural setting for this is dialogue and discussion. Group discussion provides a natural setting for learners to put forward their own ideas, as well as to listen to and respond to the ideas of others. This process of critical evaluation of ideas can take place through group discussion in class, through contributions to an online forum, or through an exchange of ideas between the learner and the project mentor. These valuable conversations can happen at the start of project work, during the process, and towards the end. Discussion can be useful early in the project process as a way of suggesting new ideas for exploration. During the project process, asking learners to participate in work-in-progress seminars or peer interviews can provide an opportunity for them to summarise the work they have done and receive feedback from others. Many project programmes include an oral presentation towards the end of the process. The challenge of summarising a project journey within an oral presentation of 10 minutes or less can help learners to clarify their thinking. Create space for learners to put forward their own ideas. At its heart, a project is a personal response to an open question or practical challenge. Learners need encouragement to go beyond researching the ideas of other people and reach the point where they are ready to make their own attempt at answering their question or meeting their challenge. It takes courage to put your own idea forward, so there needs to be constant gentle encouragement of learners and persistent challenging of them to put forward their answer to their question or their solution to their challenge. As noted at the start of this series of videos, learners also need to be given time for their ideas to develop. Time, that is, to explore, experiment, test out, refine and redevelop their ideas. The process of project development is very rarely a simple linear progression. Rich project development involves exploration of a range of alternative possibilities, testing, evaluation, trial and error, and refinement of ideas through a series of stages. It also means occasionally going down a blind alley, having to recognise mistakes and backtrack. The development phase of a project can take up to half of the time allowed for the full project process. This is the phase of project work, when learners can enjoy genuine freedom to think for themselves, trying ideas out and evaluating them as they go. They should not be expecting to be guided by their mentor at every step, but should be taking charge of the decision-making process for themselves. Encourage deeper thinking through a process of argument and counter-argument. Since the questions or challenges that frame projects are open to a range of possible answers, there will be arguments for and against any particular answer or form of response. Project learning becomes richer and deeper when learners are able to put forward their own ideas, supporting these with arguments based on their research, but also considering and responding to counter-arguments. For example, consider a learner who is writing a dissertation on the question, is social media harmful for teenagers' psychological well-being? The first stage would be for the learner to write a review of the research literature on this question. This would include reviews of sources that provide evidence of risks associated with social media. Their mentor might suggest at this point that they consider the counter-argument. Is there evidence suggesting that social media is psychologically beneficial to teenagers? With practical projects, the process of considering argument and counter-argument still applies, but the focus is on reaching conclusions about the best way to achieve a creative aim. So, for example, a learner who has decided to create a series of photographic portraits for a local charity could experiment to see whether black or white or colour images worked better. Encourage learners to draw inspiration from examples of good thinking. In developing their own response to their question or challenge, learners will need to draw on evidence, ideas and inspiration from their research. Suppose, for example, that a learner has decided to study the effectiveness of a training regime in improving sporting performance. Their research should involve looking for examples of similar investigations carried out by others. They can learn from the methods used in these studies for data collection and analysis, then adapt these methods to collect and analyse their own data. Tips for helping learners develop as critical thinkers. Use class debates or online discussion threads to give learners a chance to develop their critical thinking skills. Ask questions to help learners clarify their thinking. For example, how would you define your point of view? What is your main argument? What are the counter-arguments? Remind learners to look back to their research for inspiration when they are developing their own ideas and arguments. Encourage learners to move beyond description into argument and evaluation. Challenge learners to explore and critically evaluate alternative creative possibilities. Give them space to explore, experiment, and learn through trial and error.